guys, so today is Wednesday the 11th of October and we are doing Vlogtober day 11. So I thought I would have a little chat with you because I'm just at home today, just running some errands and stuff. It's really boring stuff, so instead of just vlogging, I thought I would just have a little chat with you. How about that? So today I thought I would talk about what are my essential sewing tools. Now, I do a lot of sewing, as you probably guys know, because I do DIY stuff, and there are certain tools that I use all the time, and there are variations of the same tool that I use for different projects. So I thought I would just have a little chat with you about the stuff that I use, and everything that I will use I will put in the description bar below. So if you haven't got one and you fancy one, you can go get one yourself. Let's go. I've got all my tools here, so I'm just gonna pull them out. The first thing that I normally use are measuring tools. So for any project, you need to know how much you're gonna cut, and that usually means that you have to measure yourself. So, ooh, I'm dropping everything. So the first thing I usually use would be a tape measure. I have a lot of them. I keep collecting them for some reason, I don't know why. This one has inches and centimeters on both sides in two different colors, and some of these are just inches and some of these are just centimeters. So depending on what you need, you can always find a really good tape measure. I would definitely say go for one of these flexible ones and then go for like a ruler as well. I have a lot of rulers. This is one of my favorite. I have a Pattern Master as well, which is basically a ruler that has a straight edge, but it also has a French curve on the other side, and you use those to make, if you're doing pattern making, to make armholes, like to make these curves and those curves and any other curves that might be on the body when you're drawing the pattern so that you can make the clothing. You can use that to get like good proper curves. So I have one of those as well, and that was from when I went to fashion school. I haven't really used it much now. I actually don't know where it is. It's like packed up somewhere, so I'm still unpacking this house, guys. I've only been here 3 weeks. So those are the measuring tools that I use, and I would definitely recommend you will always be using those. So the next thing that I use are seam rippers. These, if you're like me, are an essential part of any DIY adventure. I call them adventures because honestly I never know how things are going to turn out, and yeah, the seam ripper helps me if it doesn't turn out so well. So this is like a giant seam ripper, but I have like maybe 12 to 15 of these. I've got like big ones, I've got little ones, I've got baby ones, and then I also make sure that I have a blade. So I've got a big one of these, but I've also got very small ones too. Now these kind of do the same thing as seam rippers. Sometimes a seam ripper, because of the pokey edge, can, if you're being too what's the word, if you're being too forceful with it, you can rip your fabric. So sometimes if I just want to get to the stitches and it's like quite a clean line between a seam, then you can just slide it in between and then just go whoop, and all of the lines go. This one is very handy, but I would only use this if you're pretty experienced with one of these. So my seam ripper. So yeah, the next thing I would say is cutting tools. I have an entire drawer full of scissors, like so many things, and I use them all for different reasons. Some of them are fabric scissors, some of them are paper scissors, and you should never mix the two. Get your scissors for paper and get your scissors for fabric, mark one of them so you know which one is which, and only use them for their purpose. Because if you use fabric scissors on paper, it will dull the scissors, and the same the other way around. So when you're trying to cut fabric, you want crisp lines, you want it to be very accurate, and so you don't ruin your fabric, there's no fraying, and yeah, you don't waste any fabric by cutting it wrong or having to like recut something. So I have like various different scissors, but you've got the standard tailor shear, which are usually quite heavy, and they look something like this. I found these gold ones in John Lewis and I was like, yes, gold, come through with the gold. So yeah, You get these gold ones. I've got these ones which are really nice and long. I really like these for cutting fabric, especially when it's fabric that slips around a lot. It's good to have a nice long thing so it's like less snips to the end. But if what I would say is if you do have like slippery fabrics or difficult fabrics to cut, I would definitely say get yourself a rotary cutter. I have this one rotary cutter, but I have a bunch of different blades and some of them are different. Like I've got a pinking shears which gives you like a zigzag edge. I have a blade for that, and I have a blade which I use for paper patterns because this is really good for going around curves. What you would do, like these ones that I got from Fiskars, there's a little button here that you press, then you can squeeze it and you press the button again and it locks it in place. So then you can just go ahead like a pizza cutter and cut around fabrics, and it's really, really good for getting fabrics or going around circles, any kind of curves. This is really good for that. So I would definitely say, you know, get one of these in your kit. So another thing that you might want to get in your blades and scissors collection are a pair of snips or a pair of embroidery scissors, or both, because I have many. Like these ones are really, really cute. They look like little birds. I literally just bought them, so it's still got a cable tie on it, so I have to cut them off. But these are really good for cutting like threads, and the same with these snips. They do exactly what they say. They snip, so when you're finished on the machine you can just snip off all those excess threads. So these are really good too. The next thing that I use quite often, and I would say marking tools. So there are a whole bunch of marking tools that you can use, and I have over the years collected quite a few, and there are some that I use often and there are some that I only use for like special occasions. So I will just go with the basic thing that you might find in a basic sewing kit if you're buying like a whole kit of like Amazon or something, and that is the tailor's chalk. Now tailor's chalk can come in a triangular size, but you can also get ones that are like rectangle and it's like in some plastic, and they're usually kind of like sharp at the edge, and then it gets a little bit thicker towards the middle, and you can sharpen these with like scissors or like a sharpening stone or whatever. This pack that I had came in 3 colors, in blue, in red, and also in white. I don't have the white one anymore because I've basically used it right up until it was a nub. So in the first couple of years of sewing I used it all the time, and these are really good because when they are sharp, they're quite accurate. You can mark off where any points are, that like for buttons, or this is where the hemline is going to be, or if you need to write something like this is pattern 1, this is the arm piece, you can do that and it just washes out. It's absolutely fine. You can even brush it off if you do it lightly enough, it comes in the different colors. Sometimes you get yellow ones as well, depending on what color the fabric is that you are using, and you can just straight onto the fabric. Other things that I use is this chalk pen. So you get like these a long line of chalk, and then you kind of squeeze the bottom and you put the chalk in, slide it right in, slide it in, and then you can use it like a pencil. And you can sharpen this in a sharpener and it will be sharp like a pencil. So this I use quite a lot, and I've got ones in different colors as well depending on what color your fabric is. And then the last thing I would say, which I probably use the most now, are the pens. You get like fabric markers. So this one is water soluble, so what it means is that you can draw and mark off like any points on your fabric with this pen, and it will stay there until you wash it. So you can make your outfit and then put it in the wash, and then all the markings gone. These two are air erasable, which means that I can mark and then they stay on the fabric for a little while, and then eventually they just fade. They just fade away and they're gone. So you don't even need to wash these ones away. They will just erase in the air. So that's really good as well. I would definitely recommend those. It also means that you can see where you need to cut, or where you need to put a button, or where you need to make a hole, or whatever it is that you're making. Other marking tools, I use tracing wheels. So I've got 2 different types of tracing wheels. This is actually the first tracing wheel I ever had. It's like pretty basic, and I got it in like a basic sewing kit when I first started out. that was like 9 years ago now. And then this one is like, it's got like spiked edges. Now this one is for transferring patterns onto like card and things like that, or because like it's not going to really work on like marking onto fabric because it's just going to make holes in it. So this is really good if you're like trying to replicate any clothing that you already have, or if you're trying to make a pattern that you already have, which is like on flimsy paper, onto like card or something like that. So what you would do, you would lay your pattern or item on top of the cardboard paper, and then what you would do, you would trace around all the seam lines quite hard through this. It will go through the fabric and make perforated holes into the cardboard. So then when you take it off, you can see all the lines that you've made, and then you can like draw and make all your adjustments. So this is pretty good, and it's very sharp. I've cut myself like 3 times with this, and like is very, very sharp. So it goes in its own little special case so that you don't hurt yourself. And that is upside down. So that is that for marking tools. So the next thing I use, probably, well, to be honest, I use everything like a lot, would be pins. So these pins and the pin magnet I use a lot. I would definitely say magnets over pin cushions, but I have pin cushions as well which have a bunch of pins in them. It's just for me, I'm a messy sewer. Like a lot of people might be very neat, I'm messy. When I finish a project, there are pins all over the floor, there are pins everywhere. And to stop me from having an accident, I pick up my magnet and I just run it over everywhere, and it's just picking up all the metal and all the pins, and then I know that I'm safe. So, you know, the magnet really, really works for me. And for the pins, I use glass-headed pins. Now these are so that if I need to make a fold and I need to use an iron to make that fold more permanent, but I need to pin it into place, the glass head pins means I can use heat and I can iron right over them and they're not going to melt. Also, you find that some of the glass head pins are quite nice and long, and I like a really nice long pin and get more fabric in. So I have different sizes of pins, and I have plastic headed ones, but I don't use them as often. And I also have just the normal metal headed ones, and they come in different sizes and different like thicknesses depending on what kind of fabric you're using. You would use a very thin, small pin for like lace and the very like bridal fabrics, for instance, something that you don't really, and silk, something you don't really want to make a hole in, but you still need to tack them together. Of course, there are other ways of putting things together. You can use the bulldog clips, and there are various other clips out there that you can clip seams together if you don't want to make a hole in them. But I haven't actually gone around to that yet, but I don't know, maybe I'll buy some clips and try it out. I haven't tried it out yet, so that will be a new thing for me. And the other thing in the same family as pins, which would be needles. You should always have some hand sewing needles in your kit. You never know when you're going to need them, whether you need to sew a button on, you know, or something like that. There are machines that sew buttons on, but if you don't have that, you will need to do it by hand. And sometimes when you're hemming something, you don't want to show the external line that would show if you were to use your sewing machine, so you would hem by hand and just pick a little bit from the inside just to keep them together. So you'll see that a lot in like side jackets and like some hems. You'll think, oh, this is hemmed, but when you look on the inside, there's like tiny little stitches, but you can't see them on the other side because they've been hand sewn. The next thing that I use a lot would be weights. I have 2 different kinds of pattern weights. I've got a standard weight, which I picked up from a store called Tiger. It was like £2, and this is no, it was like £3, and this is a 2 kilogram weight. I picked these up initially to work out with, but I've got like kettlebells and stuff like that now, so I didn't really need these low weights, and now I just use them to stabilize fabric, to stabilize paper when I'm working with a lot of fabric and stuff on the floor. What you can also use are these washers. And you can get these from any hardware store. You just ask them where they can find their washers and go for the largest ones you can find. And they're kind of weighty by themselves, and they're really, really cheap. I think you can get like 10 for like £10, no, 10 for like £5 or something like that. I don't know. I got these a very long time ago, but I've got a whole bunch of these. I've got like literally like 40 of them, and when you're putting a paper pattern, wow, when you're putting a paper pattern, alliteration, onto your fabric, you can place these on them so that it keeps the fabric and the paper flat, or you could just use big weights. There are like standard pattern weights that you can buy from like proper pattern cutting places, but I just feel like these do the same thing. Hell, a can of beans will do the exact same thing, so don't feel that you need to get any of these things. You can totally just use like a bottle of water or a can of something from the cupboard downstairs, and I have done that too, so don't worry about it. So the next thing I would say that I use quite often, and I would definitely consider it a tool, is my mug, because I always have a cup of tea next to me when I am working, and I go, like, depending on how long I'm working, I will go through like 10 of these in one project, in one sitting, and then I'm realizing, why am I always running to the loo? That is why. But it has got me through definitely a project or two. So, you know, if you have a favorite little hot drink or like a little snack within arm's reach, that really helps. So that was the tools that I use often and I absolutely love to use. I will put all of the links down below. If you like what you see, then please like this video, and of course subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for Vlogtober day 12.